program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I am Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. It is another Monday with a lot to talk about today. It's been there's so much I could have talked about in this last week. It's been fast and furious with everything going on within the Trump administration. So it's hard for media to keep up on a daily basis and for me to keep up on a weekly basis, but we'll see what we can get to today. I don't have a ton actually on the schedule today. I'm just kind of picked out some of the big things that I think that y'all would want to hear about, and where I have possibly a unique take on it, in my, in the way that I do things, right? So, but I do want to, before I get started, I'm going to talk about this a couple times in this episode to make sure that everybody goes and does it, because I want you all to know, you use the link in my in the description on YouTube, or go to this on Fee's Twitter account, right, or X account, and go to this form. This form is linked in my bio. Go there, like right now. If you're watching this right now, go, open up another tab while you're listening to this and go vote. So I did a video. I entered this contest. I'm trying to win the prize money, because so I can upgrade this channel a little bit. We're constantly improving. I have a new show concept I want to invest into some new lenses and everything like that, so we can do more content for y'all. So if you would so choose to go on, like I said, in the link in the bio, in the description of this YouTube video, and click and cast your vote. My video is kind of just describing the process and the making of a Newton's Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon, and it is and yeah, so please just go vote. I know I get quite a few people on here watching, so go vote for my video on Fees, the Foundation for Economic Education's contest. Like I said, you can go to their X account and find this form, or I've retweeted it multiple times this last week. So go find it on my page, and you just click on here and go vote. Thank you, Robbie, so much for voting. I totally appreciate it. I appreciate you getting everybody that you know to vote on it, because you love my content that much. I thank you. You guys are my loyal listeners that come here every week to watch this show, and I truly appreciate that, and I want to create more content for y'all. So I'll mention it a couple more times while we're here discussing stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. I think we got till the end of the week. So I think January 31st is Friday. So don't wait. Go vote for me today, please. I appreciate it. And like I said, get all your friends to vote. Tell them that you love my content and have them go vote. But you can also have them go and sign up for my YouTube page as well. That would really be amazing. YouTube, or even X, Follow me on all platforms. Thank you. So my spiel is a little bit done. Now I do want to just also point, if you may have missed it this week, I put out a new video on, when was that? That was Thursday? It was maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I put out this video talking about the post-trans era and why I am no longer using the label of trans and what that means. You can go, obviously you guys are on YouTube, you can watch that after this episode of Transform to Freedom, but go over there, watch that. I do a big breakdown into what I think is happening, how using terms like gendered terms like man and woman and even trans, by using gender terms like that are traps. Basically what happens, trans active, like somebody will say, you know, men should not compete in female sport or in women's sports. Trans people would say trans women are women, so then they're in the right sports, and it would just go back and forth, and you would start arguing about the language being used rather than the substance of the argument as to why males should not actually compete in female sports. So in order to limit those traps and stop talking about this, like the labels, and stop talking about the words used, I'm moving more to sex-based terms. And that means going away from not using trans, but I also realized that I need to have something that signifies that I was born, that I'm a male in my bio, because I think that gives me a little bit of credibility, especially when speaking to leftists on this matter, to win them over to the side of sanity, right? So I needed something to put in the label, but it's a delabeling. It's not using gendered terms. It's, yes, I'm a male, but I'm also just living my life as the way that I see fit, and so I'm just me. And but I mean, it's a 5-minute video. Watch it after this video, and like I said, it's my pin post on X, and it's also right at the top here in on YouTube as well. So go watch that and share it around, because I think this is kind of, it's really one that's important to me, because I think that I think that we've been so stifled with using gendered language in this conversation that we don't even talk about the issues anymore. So that's where that video kind of comes down to. And like I said, I did a full breakdown. It's a lot more well thought out than, like, because on this show I speak off the cuff. When I do like these created videos, which I want to do again more of, when I do these types of videos, they're more well thought out, pen on paper, like writing down my thoughts and what I think about a lot of this stuff, and it's not so jumbled and off the cuff. It's more straight to the point, and that's why a video like that is only 5 minutes, where I can speak 30 minutes about any of these topics here on this show. But yes, so go check that out again after this show. But so yeah, and now I want to go back. So again, we like to talk at the beginning of the show about stuff that we've talked about here in the past, kind of give updates. Now I missed this. Now I'm online all the time, so I don't know how I missed this. But if you know me, I've been saying for a very long time, I appreciate Caitlyn Jenner coming over to our side on a lot of these issues, especially, when me and Caitlyn, we agree on so many issues. But I really just couldn't, I could not take her seriously as a force within the space, until she gave up the Woman of the Year award that she got in 2016, because it was an award for a woman, and she gladly accepted it and still held on to it for a very long time. Now, I didn't see this, but yes, on November 9th of last year, Caitlyn Jenner said this: "While I have never competed for one of the dozens of Glamour magazine Women of the Year awards awarded to me in 2016, I accepted the award. It has become clear in speaking with my families, men and women, the distraught nature this acceptance of the award still brings them today. Upon discussion, thought and reflection, I agree. It's important to me that I walk the walk like I have on so many of the issues, minors not being treated for transitioning and sports, no men and women's sports. I can no longer in good faith hold on to this award. And I mean, hats off. This is what I've been pushing. Like I've said this, I think this puts Caitlin into the conversation more for me as to what I think is important. And I think this was a very important step. Because how do you move on and say, and like she said, not walk the walk? If you truly believe that males should not be taking opportunities from females, then why would you hold on to the Woman of the Year award when that's not you? When you don't believe that you should have accepted that you should have been offered that award in the first place? I think this is the right move. Same as like if somebody tried to give me a woman award, it would not be right for me to accept it. I mean, even though I think that a lot of these awards are superficial, it's just I don't like award shows. I don't like all this stuff. Like these magazine awards, but at the same time, it's like if you're gonna have them, it's kind of a farce to women to give a male the Woman of the Year award. And so I definitely applaud Caitlyn Jenner for doing this. And this is kind of was the hang up I had on supporting her fully. I've supported a lot of her causes, but not fully. And I truly appreciate this for her for doing this. But I got to get her on this. Like these language traps right here, like transitioning. Nobody transitions. You can't change sex, right? And that's one of those language traps that radical feminists will do. Or men and women's sports. Those are, again, language traps. Trans women would say, or trans activists would then come and say trans women are women. And that's not true either. So we'll work on that though. Let's work on that a little bit, right, Caitlin? but I think you're on the right side of the issues as we go forth. So I appreciate that, and I think as you can see in the comments, I think a lot of people were. I don't know how I missed that. I usually see a lot of this stuff online, but it just didn't hit my algorithm. And even though it almost got 1 million views, usually it would hit my algorithm. So, but good on Caitlin. I appreciate that. Now, this next story, I don't know how much I can actually talk about it on YouTube. We've been pretty good. YouTube hasn't censored us lately, which is good. I've never been like banned from YouTube for saying stuff, but I this is the headline, and this is what is being talked about here on YouTube. I think talking about like COVID origin story and everything like that is now allowed on YouTube because a lot of it's been proven true. I know I work for Free the People, and the Matt Kibbe TikTok account was removed for talking about the lab leak theory for COVID-19 just recently, even though it's kind of been reported as true. But right now, the CIA, yes, that CIA, the deep state CIA, is now saying that the lab leak was now the likely origin. So now that Trump is in office, a lot of these people are backtracking on what they said back then. The theories that they held, and I think a lot of this is because the CIA wants to take some of the heat off of their backs, because a lot of people are looking to the military-industrial complex and pointing out how the cover-up really affected and how gain-of-function research is funded as a bioterrorism prevention, right? And so the CIA could be. I mean, we don't know exactly who's completely involved in some of this bioterror stuff, prevention stuff, but the CIA could have a hand in it, and so they might be trying to pull some of the some of the distract from them being involved in this, right? And so, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the Central Intelligence Agency, they are supposed to be the intelligence agency tracking intelligence from all over the world, and now they're coming out and saying that they think the lab leak was it was the cause of COVID-19. And interestingly enough, now we'll kind of break into this. In the last days of office, Joe Biden pardoned Anthony Fauci. We talked about this last week. That pardon went back to 2014. Do you know why it went back to 2014? Because in 2014 is when Barack Obama banned the government from funding gain-of-function research. So that is also the same year that Fauci's EcoHealth Alliance began to fund the Wuhan lab in China. And obviously, I don't have to really connect the dots to you that far. But you can understand why, if now the lab leak theory is the likely origin of COVID-19 with the lab in Wuhan, China, and Barack Obama had banned the government from funding gain-of-function research, yet the government was funding Fauci's EcoHealth Alliance, and he continued to promote gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China at the time after the ban. It was like a money laundering scheme so that the government couldn't fund it. And now the pardon, which Anthony Fauci has accepted, when you accept a pardon, you are, according to the courts, when you accept a pardon, it means that you basically accept the guilt of it. And it's like, if you weren't guilty, why would you accept a pardon? Right? And and I don't necessarily know if I believe that it should be considered that, but according to the courts, it is. Now, what is interesting we're going to see going forward is, from what we're hearing, is because he accepted the pardon, that means he has waived his Fifth Amendment right, and now will have to answer questions about this stuff again in front of Congress, which I would assume, if he lies to Congress about this again, then that is not covered under the pardon. That would be covered under perjury, because it would be a new crime of perjury. So I think we talked about this last week, does he defend his co-conspirators, or does he throw everybody under the bus? We will see, because Rand Paul is now the head of the committee that is going to investigate this. So we'll see. This is going to be an interesting one to go forward. But like I said, I think the CIA is now, they are trying to cover CYA, right? They're going to cover their ass on this one. And that's what they're doing here. And they don't want you to look too deep into what they know and what they're actually doing as well, right? So yeah. But speaking about pardons, right? Big news. Really happy about this one. This one is one of the biggest reasons I may have talked about it on the show. I've talked about it on plenty of other shows. When Donald Trump promised to free Ross Ulbricht, it was a big deal. Now, if you don't know the whole deal behind Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht created a website, which it was an e-commerce website, right? So it was kind of like a eBay type website. The only difference with it was the only difference with the e-commerce website was that they allowed people to sell drugs and stuff like that. Now there was, from what I've been told, and I've been told by Ross's mother, I was standing there. They did monitor the website to make sure there was not stuff like human trafficking happening on the website. So it was to facilitate e-commerce, direct exchange. One of the reasons why a lot of us believe that Ross was used as an example, and they made an example out of Ross, was because it was back in it was in 2000. It was in around 2011, I believe. It was early, like mid 2010s, 2011s, like right at the beginning of the crypto, the start of cryptocurrencies. And this was the first website that used Bitcoin as a payment method. And so because you could use Bitcoin, the government couldn't track the money that was being spent on there. And so they needed to show that they have full control over our monetary system. And they made an example out of Ross. Now, this is the whole case is really messed up, because I mean, Ross and his mother Lynn, who his mother Lynn is the amount that, you know, the mother's love is endless, clearly, because she did not give up on Ross. She did not give up on this cause. She has been fighting day in and day out, and she's one of the nicest, sweetest people I have ever met in my life. And I mean that, and then we have just a huge shout out to my friend Martha Bueno. If you don't know Martha, it's her handle is Bueno for Miami on X and across other platforms. She worked with Lynn tirelessly for so long to make this happen, and she's one of the ones that really worked it the longest. And then Angela McCardle came in the last few years and has really made the deals, worked with the Trump administration to make sure that this happened, make sure that Donald Trump followed through on the promise. And Angela deserves a lot of credit as well, and especially for the crap that the Libertarian Party put her through for the last couple years while making this stuff happen. It was great. I mean, it was amazing. Now the whole thing is Ross and everybody. We weren't even expecting a full unconditional pardon. We were expecting a Donald Trump to commute Ross's sentence, because Ross has already served 11 years in prison. Ross himself has said that, you know, he understands that he did some wrongdoing, you know, that he accepts the responsibility for some of what he did. And that's why he was hoping for a commutation, right? Because everybody that got in trouble for, you know, selling stuff on the website or whatever happened on that website, every single person is now out of prison. Like every person, Ross is the only person that was serving life in prison. This is, quite frankly, this is the prime example that you should show people, to show how fucked up our justice system is, right? And how the justice system, they work to get plea deals, because those plea deals look good on their stats and everything like that. They don't want to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you did the crime that they are accusing you of. This is why so many people plead guilty to crimes that they actually didn't commit, right? So Ross was offered a 10-year plea deal. He was offered he would have been out in 10 years had he taken a plea deal. So the difference between sentence was 10 years or double life plus 40 years for a nonviolent crime. Think about that. 10 years. The government was willing to allow Ross free after 10 years, but went forward and offered, and he was, because he said he did not, because he pleaded not guilty, because he said he didn't commit those crimes, he got double life in prison plus 40 years. So it's basically either you risk your life, it's either you risk spending your life in prison or you take the 10 years for a crime you possibly didn't commit. Like, that's how our justice system works, and that's really a really fucked up part of our justice system, to be quite honest. So yeah, Kolatik says, yeah, I remember Trump promising he commute him. Then that day came and it was full and unconditional pardon. He didn't even need to do that. So he went out above and beyond his promise to do it. And from what the statement read is, really it was because he believes that Ross was targeted by the same justice system that targeted him. It is interesting, and that's kind of where he's gone with a lot of his pardons. Is Donald Trump has been on the receiving end of the witch hunt DOJ of political targeting, and so all these pardons have been a lot more than what we thought he was going to do, because he has himself been on the other end of it and has seen how corrupt the justice system has been. So Ross did actually issue a statement. So here's what he said. If you didn't see the statement.
Last night, Donald Trump granted me a full pardon. I was doing life without parole, and I was locked up for more than 11 years. But he let me out. I'm a free man now. So let it be known that Donald Trump is a man of his word. Thank you so much, President Trump, for giving me this amazing blessing. I'm so grateful to have my life back, to have my future back, to have this second chance. This is such an important moment for me and for my whole family. It's an important moment for everybody who's been working for this for years. This is a victory, and it's your victory too. And this is an important moment for everybody, everywhere, who loves freedom and who cares about second chances. So it feels amazing to be free, to say the least. It's overwhelming, and for the next however long we need, I'm going to be with my family, so that we can reunite and be whole again and heal. But there's a lot to talk about, and I look forward to re-engaging with the free world. And so once I'm feeling up to it, we'll talk again.
So there you have it. Yeah, there was a funny meme that kind of came out, was how awful Donald Trump just condemned Ross Ulbricht to a life of libertarian podcasts, which very true. Yeah. Adrian Curry says, poor guy. Yeah, I mean, he looks tired, and I can imagine it's been a whirlwind of emotions. And I think I can imagine he's just excited to be out. Like, not even to compare. I remember coming back from Afghanistan after just a year deployed, and remember how amazing it was to feel, actual soil, like US soil, be free again. be able to move around and go and do what you want and not have to worry about stuff. And so it's not even comparable. I mean, 11 years in prison with no access to the outside world other than what they want you to, you know, other than there. It's heartbreaking that he had to go and spend that much time in prison, but we are so glad that he's out and he's free. For those that you are just starting to join, I'm going to go back. I already told you all, like, from the beginning, I am going to talk about this a couple times in this episode. Please, 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 you can go and vote for me, vote for my video. It's on Newton Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon by using this link on the Foundation for Economic Education's X account, or it's just right in my YouTube comments or in the YouTube description. So please go vote for me. I'm trying to win the money so I can upgrade this so I can start doing some more on this channel with and so I can upgrade my equipment and stuff like that, and then start putting out more content for y'all. So thank you. Also, Adrian Curry, thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. I truly appreciate that, and I love you so much. But yes, please go vote for me. Go vote for my video. I trying to get that money so we can upgrade. All right, let's see. Moving on. We talked a little bit about this last week too. We talked about the executive order that was coming down from the president, from President Trump, about basically the trans executive order. The government now only recognizes two sexes, which that's perfect. One of the biggest things we talked about last week, everything that was on that executive order that we talked about last week was there. And it's now one of the things the only thing that I really see it's going to be interesting to see where we go with this and how it impacts everybody. But right now, so as of today, and the only IDs that the government has access to be able to control are basically your passport your passport, and I think your global entry form or your global entry ID. And so when was this? It was in around 2021. So Adrian's asking, what is an X sex marker? So I think around like 2021, like right after the Biden administration took office. No, actually, I do think it might have been. So the backstory behind the X, the non-binary sex marker, which is what the X is supposed to stand for on passports, is supposed to be for non-binary people can choose it. Now, I guess that there was a lawsuit that a person with a DSD condition said they don't fall into male or female, and that's went up through the courts, and that is when they said that's when the ruling came down that they had to allow at least that one person to have an X on their passport, because that is what represented, quote, their sex, even though it's not accurate. We know that's not accurate. But then under the Biden, I believe, it was again under the Biden administration, they moved to full self ID on your passport. And this is what really always bugged. It never made any sense to me, right? So in most states, you can change your driver's license and your birth certificate after a certain period of time. And before this took place, that there were strict criteria for you to be able to change your passport, the marker on the sex marker on your passport. Like in the state of Georgia, you actually have to have bottom surgery in order to even be able to change your documentation here, which I think is fairly reasonable. to weed out the self ID, fakers that just want access to female spaces. I think it's fairly reasonable. But then it was really weird because then the federal government said you could self ID on your passport. So literally all it was to change your sex marker on your passport was you file a form, you change your sex on the passport, and then you send it in, and then they send you with whatever you want, including X. So there was 3. It was X, male and female. And so it was really weird that you don't have to even meet any requirements to travel abroad. Now, it is interesting. I get why you would want to change your passport and your IDs if you're fully presenting. Like if I'm going to travel abroad, I don't necessarily want to show my passport and out myself, but at the same time, does it really make a huge difference? Because if I'm in, do I want to travel to a country that's not really, do I want to travel to a country that's not really friendly to trans people in the first place? Probably not. So like, I'm not going to go travel to the Middle East. Like me going to the Middle East with, even male, if me going to the Middle East with a male on my passport would probably get me in trouble. Me going into some countries in the Middle East with female may or may not, but I'm gambling with my life, right? I'm gambling. Yeah, and absolutely. Imagine traveling to a small village in Africa with X on your passport. If somebody looks at your passport, what are they going to think? They're going to think they're not going to understand what's going on. It doesn't do anything. So that doesn't even make the X never made any sense for traveling abroad because it means nothing other than it means nothing in this country, but let alone outside this country. So as of today, when was this? I don't even remember when this was. As of the 25th, which was a couple days ago, the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who is in charge of this stuff, has suspended the passport applications with X sex markers. Now, also what we've Trump's press secretary did say that under the new guidance, it's not like they're going to be going and retroactively changing passports of people that had their passports and stuff changed. So it only really affects people that are applying for new passports, right? So if somebody has X on their passport, like the government's not going to go and send them one with their biological sex on it again, right? So they're not like taking people's passports and then like just flipping the sex marker around again on it until you actually have to renew. So I guess if you've done it in the last 6 years, if you've updated your passport in the last 6 years, then you're gonna have to wait to see who the next administration is before you even have to worry about it. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I'd go back to the Middle East anymore either. Yeah, I've only been to Afghanistan, and I definitely wouldn't go there right now, which is such a sad thing because I always tell people Afghanistan was a beautiful country. I have pictures from the tops of mountains, looking down into canyons, and beautiful country. At least where we were, between Coast and Gardez. But yeah, I wouldn't want to go there either. And in the wintertime, the snow-covered mountains, it's really, really, like I said, it's a beautiful sight. It's a beautiful country. But I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go to almost any Middle Eastern country. Even Dubai. Dubai would be a cool place to visit. But being who I am, I don't think I'd ever go to Dubai either. Yeah. Next thing. So they some big changes happening as well. So the Senate confirmed Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. It's really interesting watching all the neocons and stuff melt down. I will say one thing about his confirmation. So if you didn't know, the Senate confirmed him. It was 50-50. So J.D. Vance, who the vice president is the tie-breaking vote when it comes to the Senate. So if there's a 50-50 tie, the vice president is who breaks that tie. So J.D. Vance had to break the tie to confirm the new Secretary of Defense. This we've talked about a little bit on the show about how bills come to pass in the Senate. I am now concerned that it's going to be even harder for the Trump agenda to be passed in the Senate. Like I said, a lot of the stuff, a lot of bills, they have to get a lot of bills, they have to get 7 Democrats to vote for them. So if there's any bills that people are really super worried about that the Trump administration could try to pass, you need 7 Democrats to flip sides and vote for them with Republicans. They need to truly be bipartisan bills. Except for reconciliation, which reconciliation deals only with budget issues, which is one of the things that I think that the Trump administration is going to be the best on, is trying to shrink the size of government. That's what that's what we're hoping. But reconciliation bills, they can be passed with a 50%. They can be passed with a majority, so a 50-50 majority. But if we can barely get Pete Hegseth confirmed with a 50-50 majority, how hard is it going to be to even get Republicans to vote for budget bills, like en masse? Like, you need like almost every single Republican. Only 2 Republicans can defect in order for you to get these reconciliation bills even passed. So that was kind of a black pill when you see how hard it is to get some of these Trump's nominees confirmed. It's going to be a difficult process moving forward with any piece of legislation, let alone some of these pieces of legislation that are more concerning and not that people are so worried about, like banning of things and everything like that. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, Adrian, I'm gonna cry if RFK Jr. doesn't get in. So I agree. Now, I did see a report today that he has secured enough votes to get in. So after seeing the report today, I'm not so concerned about RFK Jr. I am concerned about Tulsi Gabbard, even though it's the neocons and the right people that are opposed to Tulsi Gabbard. I'm afraid she's not going to get in. And I hope they bring up the latest how many veterans have. I want to see how many veterans have signed the pledge recommending her, supporting her nomination, because I signed it. My name's on it. And I think that it's going to be a lot higher than even the last time that they did. Yeah, I mean, RFK though is, the Maha movement is huge, and I agree. I think that we need him in there. And like I said, I think that I do believe, I think that he will get confirmed, right? But I think he will. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Tulsi had some anti-gun stances, but she's moved away from them, and that's always been my issue with her. RFK is kind of the same way though too, with some of his stances were even probably further to the left than Tulsi Gabbard's stances. I think she's the right person for this position to root out the deep state, having been been subject to it. The other one that's going to be interesting is Kash Patel getting confirmed for FBI director. A lot of these neocons don't want these people to root out their their deep state, and so we'll see what happens. We'll obviously keep an update on that, but so talking about though Pete Hegseth getting in as the Secretary of Defense today, came out that Trump is now to ban trans people in the armed forces, DEI programs, in his new executive order. So everybody was reporting this today, but it's that he is set to do it. He hasn't done it yet. So I was trying to read what the executive order actually says. Looking at multiple sources, it appears that he may just be going back to the executive order, the quote ban that he had in his first term. The executive order itself is actually just to tell the Secretary of Defense to create a plan up on this issue. Is to create a plan on the issue, which means under the first ban, nobody got kicked out of the military because they were trans. They were, had gender dysphoria. And right now, our force levels are lower than they've ever been since are lower than they were since before World War II. So we have an issue with force cap, and according to the reports, don't know how accurate these numbers are, but there's currently possibly up to 15,000 trans people serving in the military. So that would be a considerable number to knock out of the military. Banning surgeries and stuff is fine, but if Adrian says it, but if a trans person is qualified and badass, why can't they serve? I fully agree with that. So I've always kind of talked about this, and I didn't necessarily disagree with Trump's first quote unquote ban because it allowed trans people to openly serve, openly live their life outside of their job. Like that you could attend a military ball wearing a dress, stuff like that if you were a male but you could not, you had to meet the male standards, male grooming standards, everything like that. In surgery now, like the issue I've always had with surgeries for trans people in the military is, as a former officer, former leader myself, like having bottom surgery for a male, it puts you on profile for a year. And that's actually what they said in this executive order. Supposedly the report says that Trump mentions this, but it puts you on profile for a year, which means that you can't deploy, you can't really do your job for a year. And so you're sitting in a unit where everybody else is doing their job and they're carrying your weight. And you can't get a replacement for that person because they're just on temporary profile. So they're just like sitting there taking up a position for over a year. And I've never agreed with allowing at least that surgery to do it. Not necessarily because of potential complications. It's because of the recovery period for it, right? Okay, so to talk about what happens when you have like a vaginoplasty as a male, they do the surgery. For the first 3 months, you really can't do going to work would be incredibly difficult for the first 3 months, quite honestly, because for the first 3 months, you have to dilate 3 times a day. After 3 months, so from 3 to 6 months, it goes down to once a day. From 6 months to 9 months, it goes down to every other day. And then after 12 months, you have to dilate once a week. That all changes though, unless, and this is all, I'm sorry. That changes though when, if now it's not the same though if you are actually sexually active. Like if you're married and you have a sexual partner and you're a male but you're also with a male, if you're with a sexual partner, then you don't actually have to dilate at all if it's regular. Okay, so if you don't have to dilate if you're having regular intercourse. I mean, that's how it works, right? So it just depends. But after a year, that goes down to once a week. Now, I don't think that they would allow you to deploy after a year. You're deployable after that year. But I still think that it would be difficult to deploy after having that surgery. And a lot of people look at the cost. Now, I will say one thing about like the cost, most people don't realize. So the military funds like spouses to get breast augmentations and other plastic surgeries. So the military funds dependents to get that stuff. And a lot of times they justify it because military surgeons may not have enough hours in the OR. You have to have enough hours to stay current. And so if you don't have enough hours, then they are like, okay, well, if you're not deployed, then your surgical hours are generally going to be like plastic surgery. And also they want you to stay current on even plastic surgery stuff so that you can, like if you go overseas and somebody takes shrapnel to the face, they can actually reconstruct the facial structure with plastic surgery. So that's why the military would have trained plastic surgeons. Now, I don't know. This is the other thing. I would not trust a military plastic surgeon to do these specialized surgeries that trans people need. Fully don't get that. But at the end of the day, and then like, so that could be expensive, right? And I get, I mean, I don't agree with even the VA paying for that. I honestly, I personally pay for all my own stuff out of pocket, and it's not super expensive when you really look at it. Like the average cost of hormones each year is less than $100 per person a year. So if you take that, it's less than $200. I think the average though is $90 per person per year. So if you take, say, even if it's less than $200, that's $3 million a year out of a budget of $50 billion, which is 0.004% of your annual medical budget for the military. So in the grand scheme of things, it's a drop in the hat, and they're probably paying for a lot of it. Actually, what's interesting, there are more men, so there are more males that are not trans in the military taking testosterone replacement therapy than there are even total trans people in the military. It's something like every 4.5 out of 1,000 people, males in the military, are taking testosterone replacement therapy, and the military is paying for it. So there's some of those things. It's like, why don't we just talk about like I said, dependents getting free plastic surgery, or all the other crazy stuff that they pay for everybody. I mean, when you look at a lot of this stuff, it's like, why is it so singled out? It's a drop in the bucket when you look at the entire budget. So what I do think though, I would definitely say I don't like the surgeries. I don't like military members having needless plastic surgery in the first place. They paid for me to get laser eye surgery. So they paid for me to get laser eye surgery, but that actually saves them money when you get laser eye surgery, because then they don't have to pay for your glasses and inserts. So it was actually a money-saving thing. So yeah, having people get LASIK, but a lot of people, like somebody just posted a second ago before I came on, they were like, they broke it down and they're like, you take 3 years in service and all this, like break it down. But when you do have like these procedures and a lot of that stuff, they require you to have like when I got my eye surgery, they required me to still have a year left on active duty before I could even get it done, because they wanted to make sure that I was, you know, they would get their money back from it, basically. Because yeah, I mean, when you really think about it, when you're investing in somebody's, especially like eyesight, I mean, I could see the 300-meter target a lot easier after surgery. Like I could see so much clearer. I actually could see 15/20 like right after I had laser eye surgery, so I could see better than perfect. And I've never had to wear glasses since, though I might have to start wearing reading glasses again here pretty soon, but that's here nor there. So I think that there's a conversation to be had, but I've always kind of also said that nobody in the military, generally, nobody cares who you are or what you do, as long as you can do your job. And I truly believe that, and that's the way it's been. I know quite a few people who have served in the military, trans people that were in the military, and they were fully capable, highly qualified, you know, combat veterans serving. And so I think if you absolutely, if you can do your job and deploy and all that stuff, then I don't know if there's an issue. And a lot of people want to talk about it being a mental health issue, but people are allowed to still serve while they have extreme PTSD. So if your issue is that trans people have mental health condition, PTSD is a pretty bad one too. And I get it that it's because of the military, but they allow people to serve with a much worse mental health condition than gender dysphoria. I'm just saying. But a little bit more about that. But I agree with this statement that Pete Hedgeseth says when it comes to what we need to be focusing our military on, because again, it's about doing your job, not about DEI, not about who you are, not about your race, anything like that. I always go back to General Mattis. There's a video of him under Trump's first term where he's overseas, a bunch of soldiers come up, and he tells the service members, he said, so there's a lot of issues in our country going on culturally that we don't have here in the military because we just do our jobs. Let the politicians and the civilians fight over what policy is. We just do our jobs and we do it the best we do. No matter who you are, what you decide to do with your life, whether you're gay, straight, bi, black, white, Asian, anything. It doesn't matter who you are, as long as you do your job. That's all we care about here. And you watch the 6 of your battle buddy next to you. But this is what he said.
Breaking news right now. Let's take a live look at the Pentagon, where the new Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is just now showing up.
That is something the Defense Department absolutely will continue to do. And today there are more executive orders coming that we fully support on removing DEI inside the Pentagon, reinstating troops who were pushed out because of COVID mandates, Iron Dome for America. This is happening quickly. And as the Secretary of Defense, it's an honor to salute smartly, as I did as a junior officer and now as the Secretary of Defense, to ensure these orders are complied with rapidly and quickly. Every moment that I'm here, I'm thinking about the guys and gals in Guam, in Germany, in Fort Benning and Fort Bragg, on missile defense sites and aircraft carriers. Our job is lethality and readiness and warfighting. We're going to hold people accountable. I know the chairman agrees with that. The lawful orders of the President of the United States will be executed inside this Defense Department swiftly and without excuse. We will be no better friend to our allies and no stronger adversary to those who want to test us and try us. So, Mr. Chairman, thanks for welcoming me today. I look forward to serving the troops, the warriors of this department. It's the honor of a lifetime, and we're going to get to work. God bless you all.
I actually just want to point out something there, which I absolutely love. He called it Fort Benning and Fort Bragg, which a lot of leftists are melting down that he called it Fort Bragg, because under the Biden administration, they changed it to, quote, Fort Liberty, which I didn't even know. This is what's funny is I didn't even know it moved to Fort Liberty until about a year ago, I think, when I was looking up stuff for Fort Bragg. And I'm like, it's kind of like X, where nobody I know who's ever served at Fort Bragg is calling it Fort Liberty. And I don't even know what the name for Fort Hood is, but they changed it. Like all these ones that they changed the names, I'm guessing that they changed the name of Fort Lee, where I served up in Virginia, where I did all my schooling in Virginia. I don't know. I'm like, but I served 2 years at Fort Bragg, and it's always been Fort Bragg. I'm not changing the way that I call it, and I'm glad that the new Secretary of Defense isn't calling it Fort Liberty, because the changing of the names of these posts was all based off of, political correctness, DEI, I guess not DEI, but it would be civil rights or civil God, I can't even think of the name of what I'm trying to because it changed to woke. It was, I guess that's what it is. Yeah. I mean, it basically, they were changed for wokeness. And like I said, I didn't even know. Nobody that's ever served at the center of the universe, which is the nickname for Fort Bragg, would ever call it Fort Liberty. I don't even know. I would have to go. I'd have to check with my friends that are still serving over there and be like, hey, you guys still call it Fort Bragg? But no veteran is calling it Fort Liberty that I've ever heard. I've never heard it called that until, like I said, other than when I was looking some stuff up for when I was working at the Post Millennial last year, and I was like, what is Fort Liberty? It's Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I served there for 2 years. But yeah, so we are at the top of the hour. I have some stuff. Oh, I do want to play some of this though, so I'm going to go a little bit over. Donald Trump visited the disaster sites over in North Carolina, which I thought was amazing. But when he went out to Los Angeles, I have never seen in my life, I don't know if we've ever had, in generations, I don't think we've had a president like Donald Trump, who literally is just going to tell you how it is. Like, generally in these types of situations, let me see. In these situations where the president goes and meets with local leaders of the opposition party, usually it's like this song and dance where they get along just great, and it's like there's no like real pushback. Donald Trump just goes in there and says what he wants, and this was honestly, this makes me proud to have voted for him because he's not going to take it. He's not afraid to go in there. He's not afraid to go in there and just tell them the same. This is one thing. So a lot of these politicians will go on the nightly news or go on, camera after meeting. So they would go and they would meet with their opposition party and they would be all cordial and buddy, and then they would go bash the person on nightly news. Donald Trump's just going to tell you what he thinks to your face. He's just going to tell you what he thinks to your face. He's not going to try to play the media game. He is going to tell you to your face. And honestly, I think I do think that this press conference, this conference right here with the leaders in Los Angeles, is going to red pill a lot of people in California, because a lot of people will watch this and think instead of it being this cordial thing where they get along great, Donald Trump is pointing out straight up to them how bad of a job they're doing and how, what they are actually doing straight to their face, and calling them out on it straight to their face rather than just running to the media afterwards. So check this out.
6 months is no good. And the number one thing that we are going to do immediately, and
So
we will see this happen.
What they're talking about is the people in the areas, they want to get in there and clear out their property. They want to go on their property that they own, and the government's not allowing them to. And that's why Donald Trump said 6 months is too long. So that's the background on this.
Happen is to clear out the debris. And we're concerned right now over the weekend because of the potential rain, but we are going to move as fast as we can, but we want you to be safe. We want you to be back in your homes immediately.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't
Yes,
cost
and
a
they
lot.
can.
You
and
should
they are
let them
able
do
to-
it because
No,
by the
they
time you
can do
hire
that.
contractors, it's
Right.
going to be 2 years.
If a
The
family.
people are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can
There's
do
not that much left. It's all incinerated.
That's right.
And, you know, it's just going to take a long time if you do. You can do some of it, but a lot of these people, I know that guy right there that's talking. I know my people. You'll be on that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours. And that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract
If
that's going to
individuals
charge him
want to build-
$25,000 to do his lot. I think you have emergency powers just like I do, and I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because I looked,
signed
I
an
mean, you have a
emergency
very powerful
declaration.
emergency power, and you
Yes.
can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon,
Mr. President.
So they
We
called
think-
her.
within a week.
She said you will be able to, and then
That's
they
a
said,
long
well,
time
when?
away.
And she said, a
I'll be
week.
honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important
week
thing
is
is
a
for
long
people to
time.
be safe.
They're safe. They're safe. You know what? They're not safe. They're not safe now. They're going to be much safer. A week is actually a long time, the way I look at it. I watched hundreds of people standing in front of their lots, and they're not allowed to go in. It's all burned. It's gone. It's done. Nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to burn anymore. There's nothing to burn. There's almost nothing to burn. And they want to go in. The people are all over the place. They're standing. And I say, why aren't you going in? We're trying to get a permit. And the permit's going to take them. Everybody said 18 months. You said 18 months. You said 18 months.
Last night.
And that was last night.
On that. Right.
See, Trump's listening to the people. He's literally on ground talking to these people and listening to their concerns and speaking to their concerns to the local leaders. Like they want to get in there and clear their lots. And absolutely, Adrian, the guy who spent his entire life building things and she is trying to teach him, which and there's another clip. I don't think I have it, but there's another clip where he's talking and they're going back and forth about permits, right? He's saying, I'm waiving the permit restrictions, basically doing the libertarian thing and being like, no, you don't need a permit. You guys are like, why would you don't need the permit to build it, especially if you're just rebuilding what you had. And she's trying to now say that she's going to, use the permit. But then like talking about the beer, and he's like calling out and like trying to get rid of the bureaucracy for the people on the ground to rebuild their homes. And the bureaucracy is usually what takes the most time because the government doesn't move fast at anything because it's not their property. It's not their life. And they're not the ones that are sitting out of a home right now trying to get in. Like he said, they're not safe because they're not able to work on their own property. This is probably one of the better. This is another good exchange, though. This is with Los Angeles State Congressman Brad Sherman, or is it just the actual congressman? The DC congressman, talking about basically calling out Democrat policies, and this is what I think will red pill a lot of people too. It's Democrat policies why a lot of these the insurance agencies couldn't afford to stay in California because of the restrictions that were placed on the cities, and it wasn't affordable for them to stay there, so they had to move out of California. That's what happens under these super socialist Democrat states, and Trump just calls it straight out, and then also calls them out for not having water, which is one of the reasons why the insurance companies left.
You did something, Brad, where every insurance company in the country left California. That's why you have no insurance, because you made it so impossible. People that think like you made it so impossible. And
Brad,
every
Mr.
insurance
And
company.
they cheer for it.
I don't know what
I'll
you
tell
know
you this.
about my thinking.
I've never seen a state where almost nobody has insurance. And I said, what happened? And they said like 6 months ago, they all left. And 2 years ago, they had different, quadrants, but they left. And you have very little insurance here. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
We had a lot of insurance companies pull out, but I have
And
no
the
idea.
insurance companies actually have been warning you. Now, I'm not a big fan of insurance companies, okay? They have their big drawbacks too, but the insurance company I read the papers very well. And, they've been warning California for a long time. They've also been saying, we want water. You don't have water. You're supposed to get fire insurance. And the insurance company goes, you don't have any water in your fire hydrants. So it's a tough situation. I'm not a big fan of insurance companies. I get that.
They're pulling out of
But
Florida
Brad,
as
you
well.
lost your insurance company 6 months ago because the state wouldn't give them what they had to have.
President, if I can just defend FEMA a little bit.
Yeah.
They brought thousands of people in. I don't know how they're doing in other states. They're doing a good job for us here. They've got a huge center that's open from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. But also, when you have a disaster this size, you need to be able to deploy thousands of people, which they've been able to do. Now, California, if we did it on our own, maybe we'd have thousands of people.
You do.
But if Rhode Island has
You
a
do.
Palisades disaster, are they then supposed to keep
How many
thousands?
people do you have in California? 36? How many million?
Close to
How
40
many million people do you have?
But
You have 40 million people. You're not going to get a few thousand people. The problem with FEMA is they come from all over the country. They end up in arguments with your people from California because they want to do it a totally different way. And
they're getting
I can
along
live
fine.
either way, but you haven't gotten very much done with FEMA and all you have to do is look at North Carolina. It's one of the great disasters of all time.
And Mr. President, you can't have Rhode Island maintain a staff of thousands and thousands of people waiting to see if they have a disaster.
You know who came in and fixed North Carolina or the process? Other states, people from all over the country came. And you have the same thing. You have a lot of people from all over the country. Getting the people is not a problem. Getting the organization's a big problem. FEMA's incompetently run, and it costs about 3 times more than it should cost.
I'm hoping
we
that
can
you
spend
get a
money
better
on
run.
schools instead of giving money to bureaucracy. It takes you so much longer.
Full stop. Yes. FEMA was garbage. I mean, this is the thing is, I actually know somebody who lives here in Atlanta, is out in California helping with helping families and stuff out there. Same thing. Yes. I went to North Carolina. I went up there. I could not find FEMA anywhere in North Carolina. And it was the Cajun Navy who was stood up after Katrina, a volunteer stood up after Katrina, who was up there in North Carolina doing a lot. There was a lot. And then there was the video I put out of the special operators operating out of the Harley dealership where I met like Elon Musk's engineer, and where they had all the helicopters coming in and out, is all like former special forces officers doing the work. And I literally saw 2 FEMA agents, and they were accompanied by 2 ATF agents, and that was the only time I saw FEMA. And if you want to read about my experience and how I think the federal government left the people of North Carolina out to dry, you can go and see it. You can go read it. It's on my op-ed on Human Events, talking about my experience going up there to North Carolina to see what's happening. FEMA didn't do anything, and yeah, maybe they are doing it in Los Angeles, but could it possibly be because Los Angeles is a massive state and is Democrat controlled state? I think that the government failing the people of North Carolina is why North Carolina went towards Donald Trump in the last election. So I do think that, just one last thing, talking about like the illegal immigrant stuff. We've talked a lot about on this show. We've talked about how the Democrats have, the racism of low expectation, and they're not even really hiding it anymore. So Adam Schiff goes on Meet the Press and says, the president also said this is a top priority, bringing down the price of things. Mass deportations of farm workers in California, maybe half of the workforce, are going to drive food prices through the roof. Basically saying, so without slave labor, our food prices are going through the roof. They're literally admitting that they are the reason why that they want to bring in illegal immigrants to work the fields is because they cost less than minimum wage to even hire. That's what he's saying. That's what the Democrats have been saying is like, because we like that it's like who's gonna, and then they're like, oh, to all these people, like who's gonna clean your house and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can clean your own house. Are you saying that we need illegal immigrants here to, that illegal immigrants are just like, again, slave labor that to clean our houses for cheaper than what the minimum wage is? Cheap to pick the cotton in the fields for cheap labor. That's what they're here for. Like, is that really what the message that you want to be out there putting out there? I don't think it is. And you're right. Cosmic Kilroy says this is sad that they say that. It's almost funny. It is very sad, and it would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. But all right, y'all, one last time, if you've made it this far, please make sure you go on the Foundation of Economic Education, go to the forms, click on it, vote for my video about Newton Napa Valley's Cabernet Sauvignon. There's also, if you're on YouTube, just go to the link. There's a link for this form in my description. Go right now after this. Also, go watch my other video that I put out last week, middle of last week, about being post-trans, what that means, and where we're going with it, and why I am no longer using the trans label. So go check that out. But yes, please, I'm trying to upgrade the content that we do on this channel. This show is not going to change at all because I have a pretty good setup with this camera and everything, but I do want to I have a new show concept that I want to put out there, and I'm looking to win this prize so I can upgrade and do more content and better quality content than some of the stuff that we've done so far. So yeah, like I said, please just go vote. If you're on the YouTube, click the link in my in the description. If you're on X, I've retweeted this a couple times, but go to this form and vote for Newton Napa Valley's Cabernet Sauvignon. That is mine. I appreciate it so much. I love you. And also have all of your friends, like, send it to your friends and family. Say, please vote for my friend Sarah because she's amazing, and she deserves to win this competition. I would appreciate all the help we can get so much. But again, thank you. I appreciate everybody in this audience. I thank you so much for joining. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.